broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome back to WilmsFront Snapshot News. I am back from my Thailand trip and I was up in the air at the beginning of March when Donald Trump made his mad decision to go along with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and begin bombing Iran. I arrived back to Melbourne, the world's most livable city, on Thursday, and I got to fill up my first tank of $2.40 a litre petrol. Well, I drove past the petrol station again today. It's still $2.40, so there hasn't been any price hikes since then in my area. But what is it about the month of March and global madness? Of course, we had the March 2020 COVID panic buying, then the nationwide lockdowns. It's currently the Monday, the 22nd of March, 2026. So we could still see some more insanity before the month's end. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel. Hello to everyone in the chat. I hope I'm not a bit rusty on the live stream. You can all hear and see me clearly. I had to reset the studio up again because I obviously locked everything up because I wasn't here for 19 days. And now I have got rid of most of my jet lag. My return flight was an overnight one, and there was a 4-hour time jump from Thailand time to Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Obviously, since I pre-booked my return flight last year, I didn't have to pay extra for it, and there was enough jet fuel to get me back. Though, of course, it's not just jet fuel, which is in limited supply. If you're wanting to go over to Europe, you may have to not stop over in Dubai in case there's another Iranian drone that hits. Now, obviously, I'm not going to make this whole show a holiday slideshow, since we have got the fuel crisis here to break down, but I'm sure there is some audience curiosity about what I learned and observed in Thailand. Whoops. Where did all my things go? Anyway, yeah, so I was a bit rusty there. Well, one major thing about Thailand is they are actually proud of their country. Thai flags fly everywhere in the cities and the villages, along with pictures of the king and queen. You can never have too many flags in Thailand. It is a monoculture. 92% of the population is Buddhist. The king is seen as a protector of the Buddhist faith. It has a 5% Muslim minority, though I did see a lot of hijabs working at their 7-Elevens in Bangkok. I did spend a lot of time in rural Thailand in the northeastern Isan region and experienced village life, which is still thriving. They are socially cohesive, these villages. Every neighbor is a friend. Their backyard is actually their front yard, and so family households spend most of their time in their front yard. That's where they eat, socialize, they say hello, chat to friends and neighbors who come by. The corner shops still thrive and supply most of everyday staples. It reminded me of what we have lost here in Australia over the past 60 years with our rural towns dying. In Thailand, although family members may move to other towns and cities to work, they still return to the village. A lot of them send money back to their families. And Thailand doesn't have much of a welfare state, which is another thing that keeps families together. They don't, unlike here in Australia, ship their elderly parents to nursing homes. They don't dump their newborns in childcare. So you have often different generations living in the same village, sometimes in the same house that gets handed down from generation to generation. Much of their farming still relies on manual labour, so there's still local jobs. In Isan, one of the biggest farming products is sticky rice, which, as its name suggests, is rice, but it sticks together. It's steamed in bamboo, so you just grab it out of the bamboo baskets and put it in your mouth. It's a much more relaxed place. There are a few nationalists who now have moved over there, sort of living in exile. So there's Jeff O'Toole from We Are Change Melbourne. He is a teacher in northern Thailand, and also British patriot James Goddard. He also lives in exile in Thailand in the north. I also made a one-day trip over the border to communist Laos, its capital Vientiane, which is not far from Isan province. Now, even though Australia built the first Thai-Lao friendship bridge, which I crossed, I still had to pay the communist Laotian government 1,800 Thai baht, which is about 90 Australian dollars, to cross the bridge that our government built for them to connect them with Thailand. I sort of thought we should get over for free, given that it was our government that built the bridge in 1994 under the Keating government. And Vientiane, my first time in a communist country, the Laotian flag flies next to the communist hammer and sickle. Vientiane is it's like a mix between Pyongyang and Canberra with all the government buildings. They're in the old architectural style. Though it is a city on the grow, obviously it's communist in name only now, like Vietnam and China. So there is a lot of factories and other residential hotel buildings being built. It's even got a Las Vegas casino, which you can actually see from the Thai border checkpoint. But Thailand, and Laos for that matter, like us, is in a fuel crisis with oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz now down to a trickle as Iran has booby-trapped the narrow 33-kilometre maritime choke point in response to the US and Israel's bombing campaign in Iran. It supplies 20% of the world's oil. And even though 80% of the world's oil supply is not affected, it is still enough of a supply drop to cripple the entire global economy. Thai petrol stations, they have self-imposed fuel limits varying from 500 to 1,000 baht, which is about 25 to 50 Australian dollars. Thailand has also banned the exporting of fuel, so we won't be getting any shipments from there. They have 100 days of reserves, energy reserves. We have 30, which is well below that recommended by the International Energy Agency. So they recommend 90. So according to our Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, we should stop calling him a blackout Bowen and call him empty Bowen. So he says, tells us that we have 38 days of petrol. We're getting some of that dirty fuel that has that higher. It doesn't. It's not that lead is going back in the petrol, but what this dirty fuel contains is it has more. What's it called? The sulfur content. That's it. So currently, due to environmental climate targets, petrol in Australia can only contain 10 parts per million of sulfur in it. This dirty fuel will have up to 50 parts per million. But there has to be some ghastly committee of 18 to approve this under the Fuel Quality Act. So redirects about 100 million litres of dirty fuel per month. Now, apparently it's not good for some engines either. But if it's short term, as we all hope, but I think a lot of us are pessimistic, then it wouldn't do too much long-term damage to some engines. And now the difference also between Australia and Thailand is that we are a much larger land mass. Our major cities and regions are much more spread out, so our trucks have to transport hundreds of kilometres more, and diesel, which is the main the petrol stations that are reported to be running dry, there's a lot that are just missing diesel. We are seeing fuel thefts surge. So gangs won't steal your car anymore. They'll just steal your petrol. I saw a United fuel tanker on the road, and I'm wondering, will we have the bushrangers return again who'll hijack petrol trucks? Will they have to have like armor guard escorts? You know how you see those oversized vehicles, they have like an escort. Maybe they'll have to have armor guard every side with armed guards to stop bushrangers on the highway stealing the petrol. However, I would warn people against doom scrolling on social media and also doom posting. I've seen so many TV reports, online articles and posts also from Freedom nationalist accounts talking about COVID and lockdowns 2.0. They are not the same thing. In my opinion, nothing will be worse than COVID, where we weren't even allowed to walk to the park or have people over, and we were forced to wear a mask outside. Otherwise, you'd be choked or pepper sprayed by police. Now, none of that is going to increase the supply of fuel. Yes, petrol prices being high, they are still not, at least where I am, they're still not higher than they were in 2022 when the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. It's funny, in a fuel crisis, the sanctions on Russian and Belarusian oil are being lifted by other countries. Apparently, Australia isn't lifting it, but we can receive refined Russian oil through India. So it's basically a virtue sanction that we have. it just proves that sanctions, all they do is just hurt the people imposing them. And now high petrol prices will mean that our disposable income will evaporate, and this will have a knock-on effect on the economy. So restaurants, it's recreational facilities such as bowling alleys, they'll have a massive drop-off in patronage. The footy crowds are already down. I mean, it's not just the awful administration of the AFL. Fuel rationing, if it gets to that, we have had it in Australia before, but before my lifetime in the 1973 OPEC oil crisis blockade after the Yom Kippur War in Israel, and also after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Back then it was odd even number plates. I think it'd be more sophisticated than that. It wouldn't be like World War II with coupons. Probably be some sort of QR code system again, because we all love that. And now they've already got fuel rationing in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So private vehicles are limited to 15 litres of petrol per week. They have work from home, and for everyone else, a 4-day work week. So obviously, if there's petrol rationing, it will limit how far we can travel by car. Obviously, this won't affect electrified trains, buses, public transport. They'll still be available to use, but you can't get everywhere. Obviously, electric vehicles won't be affected if you can afford them and afford to have the overnight recharge in your garage, like Lucy Turnbull, for example. And yes, there will also be a renewed push for 15-minute cities or 20-minute neighbourhoods, as the Victorian model is called. 33 of the world's fertilizer also comes through the Strait of Hormuz, which are needed for crop yields. So also expect another push for us to eat bugs. They sold grasshoppers at markets in Thailand. So the argument would be, well, other countries, they eat bugs, so why can't we? Now, if people start beginning panic buying fertilizer, that will get you on an ASIO watch list. Now, Albanese and Bowen claim that there is currently no supply issue, blaming panic buying, take only what you need. But Bowen did confirm on ABC Insiders yesterday that 6 of the 80 fuel ships scheduled for next month have been cancelled, though he said they've been made up through other ways, though he didn't go into specifics. Bowen has also appointed a fuel supply task force coordinator, Anthea Harris, who was one of the heads of the climate change authority. So we might expect to hear more messaging from her about taking up electric vehicles, solar panels, household batteries, which Chris Bowen in Parliament today praised going well. Obviously, we're many years, decades away from electric trucks going to supermarkets and transporting other goods. Now, also another thing to remember about a lot of the doom posts on social media, they can be misleading. So footage of petrol stations that are empty or jerry cans being filled at petrol stations, they could be recycled or they could be taken out of context, because there is a lot of fake news that is also circulating on X. Somebody said today that Iran could turn off the internet worldwide by cutting cables underwater. That's completely not true. Downright misinformation. So you've got to make sure that you can also just ask Grok if this is true. Though, speaking about misinformation, aren't we glad that Anthony Albanese's misinformation laws did not pass, because that would mean that the e-safety commissioner could take down any post which talked about Australia's fuel crisis, that we could run out of fuel, because it was about economic misinformation as well. And of course, the mainstream media at their press conferences with Albanese and Bowen, they're behaving the same way as they did during COVID. When we introduce fuel rationing, why haven't you introduced fuel rationing? What is your plan if we need fuel rationing? It reminds me of their conduct at the COVID press conferences. Why haven't you introduced a lockdown? Why haven't you introduced a proper hard lockdown? Why is Bunnings still open? Now, if we do have fuel rationing, I think that there should be no exemptions for mainstream media trucks. They're not essential. Just mainstream media reporters like Paul Dowsley from Channel 7 is the most famous one that comes to mind. He can just get on the train with his microphone and cameraman. Why should he get special treatment at the petrol stations? But so far, our political leaders are only engaging in nudging public behaviour, like suggesting working from home. They currently fear a backlash from mandating anything or declaring an emergency because of the credibility they burned during COVID, which is a good thing. Does anyone think if Dan Andrews was still Victorian Premier, we'd already be at fuel rationing? We'd have fuel supply commander Jerome Weimar. And now, currently, there is no panic buying at the supermarkets. There have been some recycled empty shelves, images posted to social media from 2020, including by so-called respected journalists such as Hugh Remington. He posted a photo of an empty meat fridge at a Woolworths in Melbourne. Woolworths contacted him to say that there had been a issue with that fridge, so they emptied it because otherwise it would go off. But it took Hugh Remington, who's a full-time journalist, 24 hours to correct that. So posting something without fact-checking, basically creating anxiety. I know when I was at a Woolworths, I saw the shelves packed to the brims of everything. So obviously, if fuel and diesel continues to rise, it will affect supermarket prices. We will see a massive rise in inflation, and which is a form of market rationing. We also have the former ACCC chairman Alan Fells advocating for fuel rationing and price controls. Price controls would be an absolute disaster. I much prefer that the price of petrol and fuel increase to work. The market is the perfect form of rationing. The Reserve Bank of Australia obviously increased interest rates to 4.1% last week. They won't stop stagflation, and which is prolonged inflation and a downturn in economic activity. So we will enter a recession. So Jim Chalmers, I wonder if, because he's a doctor of Paul Keating, he did his PhD on Paul Keating. I wonder if he'll invoke his PhD subject. This is the recession that we had to have. I mean, we've kind of been avoiding a recession, economic reset. There's been a lot of pressure on the Reserve Bank to cut rates prematurely and also pump up the GDP numbers through immigration. But we also should remember, unlike COVID, which was an uncontrollable virus which leaked from a lab in Wuhan, this economic carnage can end if Donald Trump actually ends the war, not just says it, because he's claiming that the war is nearing to an end. The Iranian theocratic Islamic Republic is not falling. So there is no long-term gain coming from this war. There is about 13 hours until Trump's ultimatum to Iran. If they don't fully open within 48 hours, the United States will hit and obliterate the various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, Iran, they have threatened to hit the desalination water plants of the Arab Gulf states. So unless there is some 4D chess moves that's being arranged by Trump and Iran, I don't think that Trump really has a plan. The war is unpopular everywhere apart from Israel. I mean, it's good for Benjamin Netanyahu's re-election campaign in Israel this year, and this has been a 30-year dream of his to attempt to topple the Islamic Republic. Now, the kosher right parties in the West would be wise not to support Trump in a prolonged war. Nigel Farage, the Reform leader in the UK, U-turned, initially saying that the UK should help with the US war effort, but Nigel Farage, obviously, if he wants to be a proper populist, he should put the British people first, who are hurting at the petrol bowser. And also it was Pauline Hanson, who has been to Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks ago, or it might have been a week ago. She demanded that Australia help out the United States more in this conflict.
I want to also ask you about the conflict in Iran. We heard yesterday from Donald Trump really slamming Australia and other allies, claiming that the US no longer wants or even needs their help with the conflict in Iran. What's your response to that? Are we, as Australians, doing enough to help the US?
Look, when you call someone your allies and your mates, that type of thing, and I know the Prime Minister.
I want to also ask you about the conflict in Iran. We heard yesterday from Donald Trump really slamming Australia and other allies, claiming that the US no longer wants or even needs their help with the conflict in Iran. What's your response to that? Are we, as Australians, doing enough to help the US?
Look, when you call someone your allies and your mates, that type of thing, and I know the Prime Minister was carrying on, oh, well, we weren't told about this war. Hasn't Trump reached out once before to us for assistance, and yet we did nothing to assist? When you're a mate with someone, a close ally, as we are with the deal with AUKUS, then you pick up the phone and you say, listen, mate, is there anything we can do to help or give you support? Has Albanese done that? You know, Trump is trying to get rid of the radical Islam throughout the world, and to think that it's not our problem, it is our problem, because we're taking in refugees from all around Gaza and from these countries. It is going to be our problem in the future if we don't deal with the issue now. So, you know, if we're close allies with them, then you stand united together to stamp out the evil that is happening throughout the world.
So the fact that we haven't really offered much support, we're kind of waiting for some request, are we doing damage here to this relationship with the United States?
Look, as Trump has said all along, everyone expects America to come in and fight for them. If we're in trouble here in Australia, who do you think we're going to call on to help us? Just think about that. Who? There's only one country. It's America. And what have we done to prop up our own defence here in Australia? Albanese keeps saying no more money in defence. It's all right for him to put the billions into climate change, transmission lines, the Snowy 2 scheme, $40 billion there, or keep propping up scams that go with the NDIS. At the end of the day, if we're not a nation that can defend ourselves, we've lost our sovereignty and who we are as a nation. And I think we need to take a hard look at ourselves. Wars will continue on throughout the world. We've got to be able to defend ourselves and stand on our own 2 feet. But you need true leadership to do that. Yes, you need your allies by all means. But don't rely on your allies to think they're going to come to your aid every time, because Trump has lost his own citizens in this war as well. I grieve for those families that have lost their loved ones in this war, to stamp out the evil that Iran will impose on the rest of the world if they can.
Now, Pauline is right that our defence capabilities are not fit if there's a conflict on our doorstep, like there was in World War II. We were very underprepared for World War II in the late 30s, it should be noted as well. But in terms of what Pauline said, that we need to help Trump because he asked us, and if we help him, he'll help us down the road. We don't know that. And of course, Donald Trump didn't give a heads up to all of us that he was starting this war. It's not a coalition of the willing, like the invasion of Iraq was. And it's a bit rich to basically start a war which chokes 20% of the world's oil supply, and then say, well, I want all the other nations to clean up the mess that I've made. I mean, Trump, he hasn't treated allies very well, including Australia. Friends and allies don't put tariffs on them. That is another way that, well, Trump has crippled his the United States' own economy. In fact, that's why he waived a lot of the tariffs. And the conservative media, like Fox News, they are delusional if they think that the American people are going to buy that it's their patriotic duty to pay 30-40% more for gas, as they call it.
As far as the oil prices, people just need to stop panicking. It's worth it to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So if I have to pay a little bit more for gas, I'll do that.
You got to pay the price. I mean, in order to have long-term stability.
The disruptions in the global markets are real and may be painful. But the long-term benefits, again, are incalculable.
There may be some sacrifices to be made at the pump on a temporary basis. I'm willing to pay 30% or 30 cents more at the pump to make sure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
To win in life, you got to suffer short-term pain for the long-term gain, or short-term pain for long-term gain.
Freedom is not free.
Americans are going to have to make some sacrifices.
This is short term, and I'm asking you to just trust the man, okay? Trust the system, let him
Trust the plan, man. That's what the QAnon people said. Now, Fox News, which is Murdoch media, of course, is going to support the war, as does Sky News and Talk TV over in Britain. In fact, it was Murdoch who was one of the people in Trump's ear urging him to go to war with Iran. Now, of course, Fox News are always going to support him, but there are a lot of, well, who would be described as MAGA commentators, such as Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Ann Coulter, who are totally against this war. So why has Trump trashed his brand? Violated gone against the promises that he made, that the Trump Vance ticket was the pro-peace ticket, and sell out to the neo-conservatives. Well, he got a big head after the Venezuelan operation, which wasn't regime change. It was simply arresting the president, Nicolas Maduro, on a Drug Enforcement Administration arrest warrant. And the Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, became the president. The socialist government is still in place. And also Venezuela, being a Latin American 90% Catholic country, is different from a Middle Eastern Islamic theocracy. Now, Trump probably thought, and the neocons in his ear would have told him that, look, you just need to start bombing, kill the Ayatollah and some other senior leaders, and the people will rise up again. But that hasn't happened because, well, people aren't going to protest in the street if the bombs are dropping. And they saw what happened to the leaders of the protests earlier this year. They were executed and arrested. That's why 5 of the Iranian women's soccer players reversed their asylum claim because the regime was threatening their families. There is no organized opposition in Iran. And so there was a massive chilling effect by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards troops firing on protesters. They will do anything the Islamic Republic, the mullahs, to stay in power. They are in survival mode, and of course, a lot of lives to them are expendable. And now, obviously, it was easy killing the Ayatollah, and I think that former president, that nutbag Ahmadinejad, was also killed. But the regime is fully in place, and they clearly had a plan if there was a massive bombing campaign, and that was to booby trap the Strait of Hormuz with cheap drones, which means that a lot of these oil tankers are sitting ducks. Now, you also have to give the neocons credit. They changed track from 2016 when they were never Trumpers, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, to infiltrating MAGA. Trump loves flattery and often listens to the last person he spoke to. Now he's surrounded by neocons. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. Is MAGA dead? Well, Trump said when he was defending Mark Levin after Megyn Kelly said he had a micro penis, he said that MAGA is whatever he says it is, which means that there are a whole lot of former MAGA out there who are not counted in the 100% MAGA support of Trump's policies. Breaking poll there from CNN, 100% of Trump supporters support Trump's policies. I mean, not even Kim Jong-un got 100% in the North Korean poll. I think those that didn't vote him are described as swinging voters. They're swinging from trees. And Republicans, they will get hammered in the midterms in November this year as the economic pain worsens. Democrats will, if they get control of Congress, will impeach Trump. And Democrat Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has spoken about a Project 2029.
What does a Project 2029 agenda look like for you?
I don't think you can speak of it in shorthand, but I'll just say a couple of things that I think are absolutely necessary. One is we've got to restore the rule of law, and that means holding people accountable who've broken the law. I'm talking about in this administration, when we get a new one, the people in this administration who've broken the law and federal agents who've broken the law need to be held accountable.
And that means criminally prosecuted.
Criminally prosecuted, civilly prosecuted, whatever it is that we can do, right? It may be that you can't criminally prosecute somebody, but that you can go after them civilly.
See, the Democrats don't waste power when they get it. And meanwhile, the Republican-controlled Congress can't pass the SAVE Act for election integrity. And now the Trump administration's new priority is asking Congress for another $200 billion for the Iran war, which if you're asking for $200 billion more, it doesn't sound like the war is winding down. And more Republican Congress people, particularly Congresswomen, are turning against the war, not giving the money, such as Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace. It's going to continue to surge the opposition, US opposition to the Iran war, as the dead American soldiers come back in draped coffins, and Lindsey Graham suggesting that there be a Iwo Jima style ground invasion in Iran. That would be more like a Gallipoli campaign. They'd just be running into slaughter there. Lindsey Graham, he basically is not being rebuked by the administration. It's talking about Iran war escalation and Cuba as well. I mean, and look at Trump's current approval ratings. So overall, 40%, this is YouGov, which, when we'll get to the South Australian election result, was the most accurate. So YouGov is pretty good. 40% approve, 60% disapprove. Immigration, 45% approve, 55% disapprove. Iran, 38% approve, 62% disapprove. The economy, 36% approve, 64% disapprove. Inflation, 33% approve, 67% approve. Now, obviously, the United States has voluntary voting, so there's going to be the Democrats, they'll turn up, but a lot of disillusioned Trump voters are not going to show up either. What Trump needs in the next 12 hours is a massive taco. They normally happen on Tuesdays because that's when the markets open. There was a massive worldwide meltdown on the markets. He needs a massive taco. Trump always chickens out Tuesday that he can spin as a victory. We need the Strait of Hormuz reopened, escalating the war and especially to a ground invasion is simple insanity. Back to Australia. given our sovereign production capability hasn't really moved much it's increased since COVID, we are vulnerable to every global shock. Of course, globalization and outsourcing was great in the 90s and 2000s when most nations were getting along, and there was this view that it was the end of history and the last man, that all of the rest of the world was going to transition to liberal democracy and we'd all live in harmony. Hasn't worked out that way. We saw during COVID supply chains crippled. And of course, we had China sanction our wine and lobster. But as they found out, sanctioning, tariffing our goods actually hurt their economy as well. Another reason why tariffs and sanctions are stupid and hurt the countries imposing them. Now, remember, we are a resource-rich country. We literally have golden soil, as our national anthem is... the lyric has. We've got coal and gas and uranium. We've also got oil in the Great Australian Bight. Now, the reason why getting it out of the ground would be difficult, this oil, is because you'd have the environmentalists teaming up with the Aboriginal sovereignty groups claiming that this would disturb rock art and the rainbow serpent and all that crap. Now, the reason why a lot of the outsourcing has occurred in Australia in the 90s and 2000s is because, pollution is okay if it's outsourced to a country like China or Vietnam. It's funny, the environmentalists, they only care about, it seems, emissions and pollution in Australia. They really... don't seem to care that much that it's just been shipped offshore. The pollution is still happening. And now Albanese, to give him a bit of credit here, has done his own sort of art of the deal. This is him on the phone. I'm not sure if this is as the phone call was happening or if this is just a photo op. The phone does look plugged in. He said, "We're working to secure fuel Australia needs with our international partners and long-standing friends. Today, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong of Singapore and I agreed to support the flow of essential goods, including petroleum oils such as diesel and liquefied natural gas between our two countries. We'll keep working closely as we deal with the impacts of the conflict in the Middle East." So Albo is basically saying, well, you better keep the oil flowing to Australia, because if you don't, then we might not be exporting a lot of our gas, and you might be saying to other nations, we might not send you our coal either. So Australia can play hardball as well. Of course, not only do we import all of our oil, we only have 2 refineries left, and our fuel reserves, most of that's not in Australia. Now, this is a pox on both parties. So the more refineries were shut down under the coalition government, and that's when our reserves were outsourced to Texas. Now, this is the reason, with sovereign capability back in the spotlight and the failure of both parties over successive terms in government, this is why support for one nation continues to increase. And the support for one nation in the polls, that materialised on South Australian election night on Saturday, March 21st. So obviously Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas was easily re-elected for a second 4-year term, but it wasn't the landslide that was predicted 6 months ago. So this is from the Electoral Commission of South Australia. So currently, as of a couple of hours ago, the current state of the vote, primary vote, is Labor 37.6%, One Nation 22.2%. They are just below their previous state election record of 22.6%. It's in the 98 Queensland election where they won 11 out of 89 seats. 3 percentage points of the Liberal Party on 19%. And the Greens on 10.3%. One Family First bombed with 1.7%. Now, there has been 32 seats that have been called for the Labor Party, 32 out of 47, so that's a clear majority, though it's not a McGowan-type landslide of 2021. Now, the Liberal leader, Ashton Hearn, basically claimed victory because the party has at least won 3 seats, and including her own seat. So because the Liberal Party got more than 0 seats, that's a victory, and that we can rebuild even in one term. Well, the Liberal Party in Western Australia certainly didn't recover in one term. They went in 2021 from 2 seats, then 2025, 7 seats out of 59. So they didn't rebuild that much. Now, there is a 22-member legislative council. They have 8-year terms, which in my opinion is way too long. 11 members elected statewide every term. Now, One Nation did have a MLC elected Sarah Game, but left because of a branding issue and formed her own party, Sarah Game Fair Go for Australians, which had about 3 candidates quit during the campaign, including the one who was on the ballot in the upper house. So they got 0.3%. So I don't think Sarah Game's own brand has gone well. The One Nation brand is, well, it's got an even higher vote in the upper house. So Labor still on 37.1%. They'll probably win about 5 out of the 11 seats. One Nation will win 3. So Corey Bernardi will be elected, and so will 2 other MLCs. So the Liberal Party will only get 2, and the Greens will get 1. Now, currently, it's only there is still a lot to count in the upper house, but as I was mentioning before, the polling that had been done before the South Australian election did materialise. So the most accurate looks to be, I would say, YouGov, 38% Labor, 19% Liberal, 12% Green, and One Nation 22%. So often those Liberals and political commentators that say, well, the One Nation vote always drops in polling on election day. It didn't. Obviously, there was one poll which was a particular outlier there, the Resolve poll, which was used with AI. I'm not sure if they were I don't think they were AI people polled, but they used AI to poll people. So they had One Nation at 28% and Labor at 32%. So clearly Resolve won't use that method of AI polling again. Now, because of the way our preferential voting system works, One Nation could still end up with fewer seats than the Liberal Party. They have won at least one lower house seat, One Nation. They could win up to 4 because and this is how One Nation, one of the reasons it was killed electorally in the 90s and early 2000s. All of the parties, including the major parties, the Liberal Party, preferenced against One Nation. And this is what a lot of candidates have done in the lower house seats. And it sort of makes you wonder, will there be dummy candidates in the who'll just run to direct preferences against One Nation? Obviously, voters can decide where their preferences go. So One Nation, they on their how to vote cards didn't direct their voters how to direct their preferences, just put a 1 next to One Nation, though there were a few candidates who filled in with pencil their own preferences, which is actually against the Electoral Commission of South Australia and against the directive from One Nation. But One Nation, Pauline Hanson, including with her Please Explain videos, has wanted to educate voters that you decide where your preferences go, when One Nation voters have a history of not directing a preference, not following the party's how to vote cards. Now, there are many who are claiming that One Nation, all it's doing is splitting the Conservative vote, and it is cementing that there'll be a re-elected state and federal Labor governments, though One Nation is taking votes off the Labor Party. And Peter Malinauskas, he did concede or acknowledge the rise of One Nation in his acceptance speech. He took Cory Bernardi's call to congratulate him on his re-election and reaffirmed that Labor should be pro-patriotism, but that it should be multicultural because diversity is our strength. Obviously, there was not a patriotic breakout nationwide on Saturday night with the Matildas losing the Asian Cup final to Japan. Sam Kerr wasn't the hero star again. Japan played much better. I mean, the shots on target by the Matildas were absolutely terrible. But it's obviously Australian patriots. They're not picking because the Liberal Party, they've been adamant defenders of Australia Day and flying one flag, yet patriots are turning to One Nation. So the Liberal Party's display of flag support for Australia Day, that's not cutting through to One Nation voters. So why would Labor's new patriotic messaging that they're for Australia now, why would that cut through to One Nation voters now? Now, there are a lot of One Nation voters who claim that we should abolish preferential voting, but first past the post, that would mean that the Conservative vote is split even more. And this is what happens in British elections. This is why Liz Truss lost her seat, the former Conservative Prime Minister, because of the vote split between Reform and the Conservatives. So Labor won. Obviously, in New South Wales, and they have optional preferential voting, where well, it's what we have in the upper house systems in most states, apart from Victoria, where there's still group voting tickets. You can put a 1, but you can put preferences there. I certainly like to direct preferences. So if I don't get my first choice, it goes to parties which I would consider less bad than, well, Labor, Greens, and the Socialists. And now, obviously, the line that will come out of the media and also Liberal MPs is that, these new One Nation MPs, how long will they last since One Nation loses a lot of MPs? I mentioned Sarah Game in South Australia, obviously more high profile. Mark Latham in New South Wales, who posted, I couldn't believe this, that it would be better for the One Nation Party if Pauline were to die and Barnaby Joyce to take over and do an Menzies-styled Albury meeting to found a new Conservative Party. I thought that was quite distasteful to say, but obviously that shows just how deep the rift is between Hanson and Latham these days. I certainly think proportional representation is the best system. I mean, European countries such as Germany have had it ever since they had voting, and coalition governments are the norm. And according to a Nine newspaper article today, apparently part of the Liberal Party's strategy is to counter One Nation's message is to show how they wouldn't be good for the economy, neither would their zero immigration policy. Yeah, I'm sure that would be great. If the Liberal Party, if they wanted to stop more voters going to One Nation, they should stop Jane Hume, who's the new Deputy Liberal leader, and Anne Ruston, the Deputy Senate leader, from going on TV. Because there's nothing wrong with the Liberal Party's philosophy and policies. It's all about how we talk to voters. And I mean, listening to those two Liberal senators, I mean, One Nation should put them in their ad saying this is what the Liberal Party thinks of you. Now, what the media have been trying to do of recent is trying to drive a wedge between Pauline Hanson and Barnaby Joyce. So trying to manipulate what she said about how can you say there are good Muslims. They claim that she said there are no good Muslims, and they put that to Barnaby Joyce, who was fighting a fire, and so he didn't actually know what Pauline Hanson said, so he couldn't answer properly. Well, they tried this, a journalist tried this on Sunday, tried to, verbaled what Barnaby Joyce had said about immigration in the Sky News interview on Sunday agenda, trying to drive a rift between Cory Bernardi and Barnaby Joyce. And Cory Bernardi was absolutely having none of it.
Mr. Bernardi, are you aware that Mr. Barnaby Joyce has compared immigration with buying cattle? That's an exact quote. How can you keep, with comments like this, how can you keep pushing away accusations that One Nation still has this inflammatory and racist rhetoric?
I'm not familiar with what Barnaby said. I spoke to him this morning. He didn't say anything like that to me. So he's more familiar with buying cattle than I am. So maybe you should ask him about what he's got to say.
Yes, he said this on Sky. News, and he compared for immigration to buying cattle. Do you think?
Okay. So let me presume the context that's going to come out here. If when you go to buy cattle, you choose the best cattle available to help your stocks and your herd. Well, shouldn't we be doing the same in our immigration policy? Shouldn't we be saying we want the best and brightest to come here rather than just the teeming hordes of people who come here for welfare? I mean, you can characterise that as racist. That's nonsensical. Talking about immigration is talking about immigration and the interests of Australia. And the people of South Australia, the people of Australia are waking up to the fact that mass immigration has not worked to our economic, our social or our cultural advantage. That's crystal clear to people. And if you want a proof positive of that, you look at simply the fact we're told we need more migrants to come here to solve the problems that we've got. Well, we've still got problems, and we've brought millions of people in. And in fact, the problems now are bigger. And don't talk to me about skilled migration. A couple of years ago, we had 350,000 people come into this country, and those with building skills were 0.33% of it. It is nonsensical, the rhetoric that has been pushed by the uni-party politicians. And if Barnaby Joyce and Pauline Hanson and Corey Bernardi and our whole team want to keep speaking up about the interests of Australians, I'm all for it. And they can put that in any context they like.
It certainly does raise eyebrows, though, if you're comparing it with immigrants that could be from any various backgrounds.
No, you're not comparing anything. You're just using a simile or a metaphor to say, hey, this is what we should be doing. And he's to put it in an agricultural parlance. I mean, it's only the lefties, the bleeding heart lefties, who don't want any talk about immigration that refer to this sort of stuff as racist. I'm really sorry that you've done that. But I presume you're a bleeding heart lefty.
No.
No? All right. Yeah, they all say they're not. Okay. What else?
Mr. Bernardi, are you aware that Mr. Barnaby Joyce has compared immigration with buying cattle? That's an exact quote. How can you keep with comments like this?
How great is it to have Corey Bernardi back in elected office? I did enjoy his show on Sky News. He is very red-pilled when it comes to globalism. He's a paleo-conservative, so he is anti-foreign wars, and he also knows, obviously he is a social conservative, but he knows that government intervention in things like the internet has adverse consequences. I mean, just look at the e-safety commissioner. Now, as I said, the polling for the South Australian state election was accurate. One Nation finishing a clear second, which means that One Nation is the favourite to win the Farrer by-election on May the 9th, triggered by the resignation of former Liberal leader Susan Ley. So David Farley, the agri-businessman who won the One Nation pre-selection out of 3 candidates. He is polling at 28.7%. The Teal Independent, Michelle Milthorpe, is polling at 23.3%. And quite bizarrely, she got the endorsement of Bob Katter on the weekend. I mean, sure, we know Bob Katter's mad. He's in his 80s now. Maybe he's gotten a bit madder if he's endorsing Teal. I'll tell you what, we'll also hear a lot from Bob Katter about ethanol, Australian-made ethanol as a fuel source. He's been banging on about that for 25 years. The Liberals at 19% in this poll. The Labor Party is not running, which is 9%. I wonder if they would run just to preference against One Nation. The Nationals at 5%, the Greens at 4%, they are running, and others undecided at around 10%. There was an attempted hit job on David Farley that apparently he liked some Instagram photos of some OnlyFans models. He responded, "I don't know what OnlyFans is." And I felt I saw the Liberal Party Instagram repost this and this report, and I was like, "That's the best you can do." I mean, he liked a photo of a attractive woman on Instagram. I mean, don't they remember Kevin Rudd at the strippers? That didn't help. That didn't hinder his path to election victory at all. I noticed another thing that they're using against One Nation now, they'll use it in Farrer as well, is that, the South Australian election, everyone knew Malinowskis was going to win, and so they could lodge a protest vote. Same in Farrer, because it won't change the government. Though, I wouldn't be so try to come up with what would you call it? Copianism. That One Nation will either fall apart again, or when it comes to a real election contest, people won't vote for them. We've got the next state election is here in Victoria last Saturday in November. Pauline Hanson said on election night that One Nation is going to stand candidates. Well, of course they are, but a lot of candidates, maybe in all 88 lower house electorates, certainly in the upper house. It should be noted that Ricky Lee Tyrrell, the One Nation MLC, she's been one who has been 100% loyal to the party. Warren Pickering, who I've interviewed on both his Senate runs for One Nation in 2022 and 2025, he is a 100% loyalist to the party as well. He was in South Australia as well. So I think they have got a strong team here in Victoria. And we are seeing One Nation in the mid-20s in Victoria. In fact, there was one poll where they were outpolling the Labor Party. So because there is both hatred at the Allen Labor government, but also despair at the Jess Wilson Liberal opposition. I mean, how can the Liberals say, "Oh, well, One Nation, they're not a party of government," when the Liberal Party doesn't look like it's ready for government here in Victoria? So it is going to be an epic election here in Victoria. Who knows by then whether the campaign buses, there'll be enough fuel for them to actually get around, or maybe they'll all be electric by then. I think Chris Minns had a electric campaign bus for the federal election, but he forgot to recharge it, so it broke down. Some good news, because we certainly needed some, is that the ISIS brides won't be coming back from Syria. So Tony Burke's mate, Dr. Jamal Rifi, the head of the Friends of Burke re-election campaign, has put his repatriation efforts on hold because of the war in Iran. Oh, what a shame. So that is certainly good news. But despite Albo and Tony Burke's massive placation of the Muslim vote, recognising Palestine, giving all this money to these Muslim groups, and also, well, this was also in large part so Tony Burke could get re-elected in Watson. They were still heckled at the Eid end of Ramadan prayers at the Lakemba's Mosque in Sydney's southwest, which is managed by the Lebanese Muslim Association. There was this heckler, and it's worth seeing the footage again.
Boo Tony Burke! Boo! What are you doing here? Genocide supporters! Boo! Boo! This is bad! Boo! Genocide supporters! Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd. Genocide supporters. Dear brothers and sisters. Impacts our community. Why is he in here? Get him out of here. We as Australian Muslims. Get him out of here. He's the brother. We as Australian Muslims need to have these deep intellectual discussions in regards to how we navigate the path of engaging political leadership, the media and the wider worship. Respect the place.
Oh, look at Burka there.
This is a loss. Respect us. Please sit down. Please. Boys, sit down. Please sit down. All of you sit down, please. Sit down. Stop recording. Sit down. Have respect.
We invited politicians to make us feel good about ourselves, but never genuinely had a robust and effective communication with them about the issues affecting our community. Right?
You called him honourable. You called him honourable. He's responsible for the deaths of 1 billion people. 1 billion of our brothers and sisters. 1 billion. 1 billion. 1 billion.
Now, Anthony Albanese claimed that he got a very warm welcome at the mosque and attributed the heckling to backlash over his government's ban on Hezbollah Tahrir. And he denied that he was chased out of the mosque, similar to the way that he denied he fell off the stage during the election campaign. Though in the Lebanese Muslims Association's official remarks, they weren't very warm to the Albanese government, claiming that they're supporting the Israeli genocide of Gaza. I mean, obviously that's what the pro-Palestine protesters, the white socialist Antifas claim at their weekly marches as well. And in fact, they shut down Anthony Albanese's office. And obviously the same types are claiming that Albanese is Trump's bitch by supporting the strikes on initial strikes on Iran. So now talk about biting the hands that feeds you. I think those the ones who are trying to get those hecklers to calm down are like, if you keep this up, we won't get any more money for our future festivals and that. Look, just cool it for the moment. But yes, after all that placating, still get heckled. And so, and also, we also know that Tony Burke, the head of Tony Burke's re-election campaign, Dr. Jamal Rifi, he doesn't feel that Tony Burke has held his part of the bargain up in getting the ISIS brides out. So he could be in trouble next federal election campaign, which is why he shouldn't be our Home Affairs Minister, because his judgment is clearly compromised when it comes to national security decisions. There has just been, in the past few hours or so, there has been some Jewish volunteer ambulances that have been set alight in what's been described as an anti-Semitic attack. There doesn't appear to be any injuries, let alone casualties, so that is good news. This brings us to the end of WilmsFront 4 this week. Of course, now that I'm back, the show will be on every Monday at 9 p.m. Melbourne time. Obviously, I won't be flying anywhere soon. Obviously, air travel will be restricted if there's a prolonged oil shortage. Of course, the politicians and the globalists will still jet set around the world because rationing, well, that's just for the peasants to have to put up with. Now, I also plan to lock in some WilmsFront interview shows now. I also plan to post some video highlights I captured from my trip to Thailand. While I was there, I kept up my Wilms report, appearances on New Zealand's reality check radio breakfast program with Paul Brennan. So appear every fortnight. It's easy to appear on someone else's show when they do the recording and editing, but a bit difficult to do your own show on the road. I didn't have the room in my suitcase or baggage allowance to put my roadcaster in there. So this is my latest report from last week. I appear fortnightly, so I'll be on next Tuesday. Also, please consider supporting the work of the Unshackled by a premium membership, either on the unshackled.net/membership or over on the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. I will be recording some more reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft, if I have enough fuel to get there. Otherwise, it might be a Zoom remote recording. It'll be interesting to see in Richard's new reports what he thinks of Trump now, because he's been the most pro-Trump commentator, along with Sam Newman, who he appears on his You Cannot Be Serious podcast. So it'd be interesting to hear what Richard hears now. But those who say the sacrifice is worth it, well, I don't see it, as Iranian regime is still in place and petrol is very high at the moment. Though, having said that, I do advise all of you against excessive doom scrolling and doom posting. That doesn't help anyone, particularly mental health, anxiety. I mean, there was a saying during COVID, the only antivirus wipes you need are on your TV to get rid of the mainstream media. Just unplug it, turn it off. Read a book, go outside, enjoy fresh air, because all of the bad news, it can drive even the most strong of us to a lot of despair. Obviously, still continue to watch WilmsFront and the Unshackled as well. So until then, please, I'm not going to stay optimistic because we're all pessimistic, but just try to just have a bit more relaxation, because there's literally none of us can influence President Trump, not even Tucker Carlson could. So it's all out of our hands at the moment, but obviously it can end in an instant. We all know that. So good night, everybody, and I'll see you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting theunshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.